Hi, everyone. It's Amanda Rieger Green. Welcome to Soul Sessions. Today, I have a special guest, Sarah Grendahl. She came on last year. She is a podcast listener, and we discussed her numerology and the year. And she has really taken numerology, astrology to heart and began to apply it in her life in practical and magical ways. And her stories of transformation and signs, synchronicities, and things clicking into place, not only for herself, but with her family, are pretty inspirational and incredible. So I'm excited to have her on today. Welcome, Sarah.
Hello, thank you. I'm excited.
And just for all you to know, Sarah lives in Bismarck, North Dakota. And of course, we were talking about the weather this morning. And I was like, oh, it's 33 in Texas. And she says it's negative. What did you say? Negative what there?
49.
Negative
Yeah.
49. So I have no room to talk. I knew she was going to trump me big time with the temperature. But anyway, both of us are staying warm and cozy. So buckle up. I think today the basis of having Sarah on is not only that I appreciate the wisdom and the practical application she brings through her experience with all things metaphysical that she's been applying, but also the joy that it brings into her life. And I think it will be very accessible for everyone out there. Sarah, will you tell everybody a little bit how numerology, astrology, how this stuff has inspired you, like things over the last year or so, especially how you've been inspired in practical and magical ways?
Yes, so much. I think I just described it the other day, which kind of like really resonated with myself.
Mhm.
But it's like a blueprint for my life, kind of, And I feel like I can really like connect all the dots with this numerology. And I think last year you're the one that told me about the lunar nodes too. And I read about that, and everything to me is just like it all makes sense. Or like it helps me go in a direction that I was scared to go before, but it kind of gives me that boost to move forward with something that I would normally be scared to do. So, yeah, I think it's like it's built confidence in myself. And then once you start seeing the things play out, like then you get more confidence and, it gets so exciting moving forward with everything.
Well, thank you. You're speaking my language, of course, blueprint, connecting the dots, and the confidence and empowerment. And that really has been my experience. And I know so many of the listeners out there, whether you're new to astrology, numerology, and other metaphysical tools, these are ancient sciences and practices that are not only metaphysical, meaning they're above physics, they're intangible, they're spiritual, they're psychological, and there is something in what I call psycho-spiritual, which means it connects with your consciousness, your psychology, your awareness, and then it has this energetic component that begins to, like you said, connect the dots or create a framework. And I love that you mentioned the lunar nodes that astrologically, I've talked about that on here before, but in our natal charts, when we find exactly where the planets were at the time and location of our birth, we have something called the placement of our lunar nodes. And there's the north node of the moon and the south node of the moon. And what those indicates are our soul's evolutionary aim, our soul's direction. So the north node denotes the soul's direction forward, where you're growing towards. And the south node is where you've been and whether you think of it as karma, past lives, your experience where you're comfortable, where you reside. The south node is what is familiar, and the north node is what you are opening up to create greater happiness, fulfillment, and moving into a frequency that is aligned with your soul's lessons. Remind me, what are your north and south nodes? Do you remember?
My north node is in Leo and south node is in Aquarius.
Okay.
And yeah, and same as my husband Roger, like we're the same. Yeah.
Well, and my north node is in Leo and south node Aquarius. So Sarah is an Aquarius. She's born February 12th, 1981. and I'm born in 1980. So the lunar nodes are in a polarity in two signs for about 18 months at a given time. And both of us have that same configuration in our chart. And of course, Sarah is an Aquarius. Her sun sign is Aquarius. So we already know she's Aquarian by vibration and vitality and nature, but also her south node, past lifetimes connect with the attributes of Aquarius. So in this lifetime, like me, and if you have your north node in Leo, south node Aquarius, we are aspiring more towards the traits of characteristics and attributes of Leo, which is, of course, living from the heart and heart centered, but putting ourselves out there, being bold, being seen, moving from this space of generously shining our lights. And for those of us who have Aquarian South nodes or are heavy Aquarius, Aquarius is about community and being in the herd, in the middle, like not necessarily charging forward and being the leader of. It's more comfortable being in the pack. And also, it dances to the beat of its own drum. So it's easier and more comfortable sometimes to be in the middle than be so outside the box and leading the charge that the Leo attributes, even though we can aspire towards them, we like to get into our Aquarian quirky natures rather than putting strange and weird ideas out there. And one of the things that you said to everyone that you just shared was at first I was afraid of this stuff and that it was going to be weird or I wasn't going to understand it or whatever the taboo natures of
Mhm.
metaphysics as they fall in line with society, religion, things like that. That is like, yeah, I'm thinking these things, but I can't share this with anybody because they're going to think I'm weird. But Leo's like, I'm going to boldly be who I am and share it
Mhm.
out in the world. And if you love it and resonate, it's going to light you up and inspire you. And you're very inspirational to me as far as what you have been able to grasp in such a short period of time and how you've applied it. Let's talk a little bit about your family too, because one of the things that I love is your family, your husband and both of your children, and you can share a little bit about them, have gotten into your numerology. And at first I remember you said last year, I'll share things with them and they love you because you're their mother and you're part of their family, but they be like, okay, mom. And
Yeah.
now they're way more into it. Will you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, for sure. Well, I first think Roger sees, like, how happy and confident I think I've become, and I always relate it back to the, like, numerology, astrology. I'm like, if people just can figure out, like, their little blueprint, like, they would totally get themselves, right? So, he I think just by sees like stuff happening in my life, he's totally become on board with it, like 100%. He'll text me now every day, like, oh, it's 3:33, it's 11:11. Like he's totally in on it, which I love and appreciate because it allows me to more like be myself too, right? Like you don't want to like hide quirky things about yourself. So I really appreciate that about him that he allows me to be myself. And also he totally sees it and believes in it too. My daughter, I feel like it's been so fun, like this 100% a way we can connect on things. She's totally I always share with her like, "Okay, this is your life path number this year, or this is this," and she's definitely into, like, the astrology for the day and stuff like that. And then my son we were in Mexico, and we were waiting, and he's like, "Mom, what's your numbers again?" Like, so he's totally not 100% in with it, but he knows, like, he knows it's part of me, and I did change his numerology on his vehicle that he was trying to sell, and it worked. So, I think that's when he was like, "Okay, mom's not that weird." So
Yeah. I mean, I love that Sarah just dropped the bomb of I changed his numerology on his vehicle because address numerology, if you listen to the podcast, I've talked about address numerology and how you can change the vibration of your home. You don't have to go to the post office and change your address, but there's a simple way to
Mhm.
do it. And we'll link the address numerology blog in the description in the show notes. So you can check it out if you're new to that and you can listen back to some old episodes. But you can change the vibration of anything once you know the formulary. So let me ask you this. Did you all use his VIN number when you changed it? What did you, or his license plate
He
number?
used his license plate number,
Okay.
so that's how I changed it, and then I wrote on a sheet of paper, like, what kind of buyer, because that's what I've really learned too, and I learned that from you actually, is, like, write down the intentions of it. So that's what I did, and his truck sold, like, shortly after,
Oh my
so
gosh, that is amazing. And for everybody out there, what Sarah is referring to is with address numerology or changing the vibration of any number code, because numbers are everywhere. We've got a driver's license number, we've got a social security number, we have VIN
Mhm,
numbers and license plate numbers. But basically, she added up the sum total of his license plate, even if there were letters in it, because letters have numerological components, and that's in the address numerology blog, by the way, if you're just lost and you're wanting to check this out. But she added the sum total, got it, reduced it down, and then she added a number to it to change the vibration. But you and I have talked about this. I've talked about it on the podcast. We have sold homes, we have changed vibrations of space. I will always look at numbers and number codes in places. And if I can alter the numbers, I also put intentions behind what I do. I don't just flip the number and change it
mhm,
and give it to the universe. I get very clear in what my intentions are, especially as they relate to what I am setting forth to do and what the vibrational quality of that number is. So you have done that. And I know you all did that. Sarah and her husband have a design company called Grendel Design Company. And I know that you all have also sold a home recently.
mhm.
Tell
Yeah,
everybody about that and how it wasn't selling initially. And you reached out to me and you said, "Am I doing something wrong?" And I'm like, "No,
mhm.
never wrong. Like, let's talk about it." Talk to share of that with everybody.
Yeah, so we had built a spec home and it was sitting on the market forever. I did change the numerology early in this, like trying to sell it, but I was really, I think, unintentional about it. I just switched it to an 8 and like, okay, the magic's gonna work, right? And it just wasn't working. And I was like trying to be patient, and every day you're thinking about this house for sale because, it's an investment on our part, right? So I feel like y people say you can't think about it, but you think about it. But by my address numerology, I'm like, I must not be doing something right? And I did reach out to you, and then you had referred to a podcast that you and Amy did about her house sale numerology. So I listened to that, and then I re-listened to it again. Then I was like, okay, I don't have the qualities of the buyer I want on this list. So I went on, it was either new moon or full moon. I can't remember which one, but I went there that day and I wrote on a piece of paper, like, every intention I wanted for the house, like, what I wanted the buyer to be, what I wanted, us both, like, both parties to gain from this house sale, and that I would have, like, really helpful realtors. And within a month of me doing that, we did receive an offer. And one of the things I had put on there was quick sale closes within 30 days and cash offer. And they moved from out of town is what I put on there. All of those things we got. Like when he said they want to close in 30 days, I was like, Roger, I wrote that on the list. So what I did is I put it under the front rug of uh, the house. So that's magical.
I mean,
And
these are amazing. This is an amazing example, and I've had many things like this happen, and clients and people I know. And there's this element of wish making to it. You and I
Mhm,
have discussed this before, and I've shared this on the podcast. When we set intentions, you get very clear, very intentional, but it's including the divine orchestration of the universe, trusting that the universe has your back, and you get clear. But it's like blowing out candles on a birthday
mhm.
cake. You put it under the rug, you get clear in that moment. Here is what I'm looking for. Here's the intentions behind this energy. And also, like you said, I did it on a new moon or a full moon
Mhm.
or the first of the month. I always encourage doing it aligned with a portal of energy from the universe that is supporting you. But it's like you put it under the rug, and then it's like, okay, it's giving it to God, giving it to the universe, and
Yeah.
going about your business. And it's almost like you forget about it. You get clear and then you forget. And then that's when the universe can say, okay, we're going to go to work. Like, we're going to
Mhm.
support you, and things happen in divine timing. And I love that you shared about doing it before and it didn't work, because I get a lot of people when, not a lot, but when people say, "Gosh, am I doing something wrong?" And I'm like, "It's never wrong. It's always,
Mhm.
let's look at this and let's look at your beliefs and your energy behind it, and how can you be clearer, more focused, and then also let go." And that reminds me of the numerology of 2025. We're in a 9 year, which is truly about quality oriented and intentional action, and then truly relinquishing it to the universe, which means, because I know me, I'll take stuff back into my self will, just like what you were sharing. Of course, you're
Mhm.
putting a house on the market and there's money involved, and this is your business and finances. That's human. It's stressful, those things.
Yeah.
And in, markets that are unpredictable, life is unpredictable. It's life on life's terms, but there is a component of belief and truly giving or surrendering something to the universe. And I think the way that you described it, with suiting up, showing up, being intentional, getting clear, and then putting it under the rug and letting go,
Mhm.
that is truly a massive theme of 2025, is showing up intentionally and then surrendering. So I think that's a beautiful example. And for anybody out there, this is a great time to think about your address numerology and the intentions for this year that you've started to cultivate and set forth. Changing your address numerology on one of the next new moons. We have a new moon at the end of January in Aquarius. It's your new moon, by the way,
Yeah.
Sarah. It's the Aquarius new moon. And this is a big new moon because it's the first new moon in Aquarius since Pluto has made this formal shift into Aquarius. It's the first new moon of 2025. It's very powerful in terms of seeding intentions for the future, because Aquarius is about the future. It's about innovation and really setting out on a new path that is extraordinary or revolutionary. So it's a good time for address numerology. I also, for me personally, it's when I will set my intentions for the new year. This
Yeah.
new moon, because we started the year with a Cancer full moon, which really felt like a lot of detoxing and shedding of old
Mhm.
stories, old paradigms. I don't know if you felt that way, but January has felt like reorienting forward, yet shedding at the same time. And that's the numerology of this month. If and
Mhm.
Sarah has the guidebook, and we'll talk a little bit about her experience with the guidebook. But the guidebook walks you through the monthly numerology. And this is a 1 month, new beginnings. And yet, we're in a 9 year. It's about shedding and letting go. So it's an interesting energy in January. And I have certainly felt that forward momentum, yet doing it with not hesitation or reservation, but this patience or this deep presence of, what is my motive behind this? Why am I moving forward in this direction? And I've actually seen personally for myself a lot of curious growth within myself and decision making and discernment. I feel like it's a
Mm.
discerning month. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I feel like, well, you had said mentioned something on your podcast this a couple weeks ago about how, um, you wanna, like, shed old patterns or whatever, and that's kinda how I've been really, like, craving, is thinking outside the box, being outside the box, and you literally said those exact same words in one of your podcasts, and so, yeah, like, I can relate.
Yeah, how that's happening, and it
Yeah.
is for everyone. And so this segues us into the guidebook a little bit. So when I did the numerology guidebook last year in 2024, and that was not my first rodeo, everyone, by the way. Years ago, I did an astrology numerology workbook that was actually not digital, because I know a lot of you out there are like, it's not printable, and Sarah wanted it printable. Like, let's just go on the record. And I tell you what, let me just make a public service announcement. I would love for the guidebook itself to be printable in 2026. I just haven't been able to formulate the resources and make sense of it. So digital works. And this year we put it in a platform and we added astrology. And years ago, I had a business partner and we had a metaphysical publishing company together and an astrology numerology company. And she had a publishing background. So we actually had a formal workbook that was pretty incredible. But when I went to do the guidebook last year, I was like, I'm going to do numerology because there's not a numerology guidebook out there that is functional and accessible. Let me do what I've been doing with clients and for myself for years. And then when I reached out to Sarah, probably midsummer or so
Mhm.
last year, I said, "Hey, Sarah, I'm about to start working on the guidebook for 2025. What would you want? What would you want to see? Tell me." And the first thing she said was, can you add in astrology and how the astrology and the numerology work together? Because you talk about that in your podcast, but can you add that into the guidebook? And I said, absolutely. And then I stepped back and said, how am I going to do this in a simple, formulaic, accessible way so I don't get too detailed, but give enough? And hopefully it's done that. So, will you talk about, I guess, the difference or what you're liking about the platform and the astrology numerology guidebook of 2025? So, people out there who are thinking about getting it or new in astrology and numerology and curious about these things see how it's been effective for you and a great resource and tool.
Yes. Well, I love it. I loved last year's book, and I feel like was kind of the start of my whole self-help journey. It really helped me grow as a person. I did print it. I loved it. And now this year, I do like it. And I like that it's organized in the tabs. I like how you can go find like the date. Like January 19th is the one I actually just looked up yesterday, obviously. So I like how you can go find that. I love the astrology with it. And the reason why I wanted astrology with it is because you talked about the lunar nodes last year, and that's what really got me into the whole astrology part of it. So I like all of that and how it's going to affect us personally as like Aquarius, or even I'll look up Macy's, or my husband's or my son's stuff too. Just, I don't know. I just really feel like it's a roadmap. So I really like it.
Yeah, I'm so glad. Yeah, it's for me and for so many people out there, when you have a framework and you see what's going on in the universal energies, then it's
Hmm.
easier to roll with the tides versus feeling like you're going out against them. And it, for me, a lot of times, and for so many, having that having that extra bump from the universe. Oh, the sun is in
Yeah.
this sign, and this is the numerology of this month. If we're in a 1 month in January, we're in a 2 month in a 9 year in February. And the 2 and the 9 combo is very different than the 1 and the 9 combo. And I explain that in the guidebook, but then I correlate it with where the sun is, the new and the full moons, the planets and their direct retrograde motions, and then the lunar nodes of the moon. So it's really helpful in that sense of seeing it all play together. And of course, just like last year, it's got intentions and crystal
Hmm.
recommendations and reflections. You'll have journal prompts for the new and full moons and for the month, and specific crystal recommendations for each month and one for the year. And so there's a multitude of things, but I know that it gives a framework. And it's funny because I'm using the guidebook. I wrote it, and when I write it, I remember really working on it, and when I work on it, I just start to channel is what happens. I
Mhm.
know what I know, and of course, I'm looking at dates and transits and the astrology and the numerology, and then as I start to type and write, it just starts to channel. And I was wrapping up the last 3 months of 2025, and I was at my sister's in Washington, DC, and I was sitting on her sofa. I think I was in like October or November, and I am writing stuff, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, whoa, this is happening. Oh my gosh." And it's just getting me into the year, and I get hyped up about it. But what I do love about the guidebook, and I've encouraged people, and I want your take on this specifically because this is something I have practiced as long as I can remember. With the guidebook or with working with any astrology or numerology, I go from the present moment, I go backwards and I go forwards. I'm looking at whatever the date is today and what's going on and what's happening numerologically, astrologically. But I will go retrospectively and I'll go back a couple of months or I'll go forward a couple of months. So it's like I'm mapping forward and I'm reviewing, I'm looking in the rear view mirror. And what it does is it helps me to better orient myself for what I've walked through and create clarification and intentionality. And then also know what may be coming in the months ahead energetically. So I am using my time wisely. Does that resonate?
Yes, absolutely. Like, just when you mentioned how you will go backwards, again, on your podcast, you're like my life coach, I feel like, but you said to go back to a certain date, and I did. I went and back my journal, went back to a certain date, literally wrote the exact same thing I had wrote that same day in the journal. So, I can't remember exactly what you were referring to, but I wrote about being out of the box, coming out of the box. So, in the past, I haven't done that, but probably a month ago is when I started doing that, and I love it. And even just this morning, I was thinking back to, because then I think back to, okay, 2013 was like a really pivotal year for me. What year was that, like in numerology? So it is. I'm gonna do that more often for sure.
Absolutely, and I've done that since early on. I love to correlate data and see the parallels and connect the dots, and whenever I'm working with astrology, numerology, and if I am working individually with a client or I'm working with myself, I'm always going backwards and forwards
Mhm.
to get this better orientation. So anybody out there, as far as the guidebook goes, I tell people, gosh, you could buy it in August. You could get it in August and go back and do the journal prompts
Mhm.
because retrospectively and prospectively it works because we do have linear time. We have the calendar, we have clocks, but we are moving into this multi-dimensional energy, especially with the lunar nodes today in the sky. They are now officially, they have transitioned out of Aries and Libra, and we are officially, we have the North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo. And Virgo loves data and analysis. And Pisces is about the non-linear. It is about the universe. So we're moving into this phase energetically for a multitude of reasons where time is changing. Time is speeding up and slowing down simultaneously, where the utilization of linear time and nonlinear time, getting creative with that, it helps when you have some kind of astrology, numerology report where you can go back, retrace your steps, and go forward. And that sort of tool for anyone out there is helpful. And you don't have to get bogged down if you can't correlate data points.
Mhm.
But usually for me, when I go back and I say, oh, I was in a 4 year in numerology in that year in my personal numerology. What was going on? What's happening now? All of a sudden, I'll recognize similarities. And of course, there will have been experience and growth and lessons that have happened temporally between
Mhm.
that time and now. But I will see these energetic signatures of patterns of behavior or things repeating in different ways. It's almost like the universe is saying, okay, you're tweaking this. You've learned a lot
Mm.
since then, but how can you level up? How can you grow through this? And because we're in a 9 year, it is about soul level growth. It's about this culmination of wisdom in this last 9 year cycle. Now, Sarah and I have talked about personal numerology, and I talk about that all the time. So, Sarah, as I mentioned, is born February 12th, 1981. So, she is a 5 attitude number and a 6 life path. And the way that I get that, I know that most of you have listened, so you know this, but if you're brand new, her attitude number is literally the month she was born plus the date she was born reduced to a single digit. So if I add 2 plus 1 plus 2, it equals 5. But if I added 2 to 12, it equals 14, which 1 plus 4 reduced down equals 5. So any way you do the math, it reduces to the same number. So her attitude number, which is the attitude, the personality, the way we dawn on people at first glance, kind of like our ascendant in astrology, that's what the attitude number is. And Sarah is a 5. And then her life path number, which is the sum total of her birthday reduced to a single digit, is 6. But actually, when I do the calculation in the appropriate way for her life path number, she's a 33. And when I say the appropriate way, because there's two ways you can do it to get your actual digit. So let me calculate this for everybody so you know. And you may want to listen and take notes, unless you're driving, right? Like do it at a later time. Although you can do it in your head, just pay attention to the stoplights and the people around you. But you would add 2 plus 12, which is 14. And then you would take 1981 and you would add 1 plus 9 plus 8 plus 1, and that equals 19. And what you do is you add 14 to 19. And when I add 14 to 19, you end up with 33. Sarah is a 33 life path, which is a master number. So she is a 6 because 3 plus 3 equals 6, but she is a 33. And the master number 33 is the master healer. The energy of the 6 is very much about nurture and wisdom and support, wise counsel. It's also a very successful business number. They're very methodical from a business perspective. And the energy of the 33 is about being able to not only heal yourself and create a journey of healing throughout your lifetime, but impart healing and wisdom to others. So it's this dedication, and it's a dedication. And I want to say something else about it, and I'll pause in a minute and say this, but it's a dedication to this spiritual journey. The number 33 is a very evolved spiritual number. So it's no wonder that this resonates with you. And with your Aquarian South Node, there's a lot of energy and in your blueprint that says, I get this. Numbers,
Mm.
astrology. Oh my gosh, this makes sense to me. It clicks in your body because it is mathematical. And Aquarians, a lot of times, have kind of a genius about them in the way they put puzzle pieces together and connect the dots. Anyone who has a master number, and that would be 11, 22, 33, or 44, you always look at the base frequency, which is the single digit. So 33 would be 6. If it was 11, it would be 2. If it's 44, it would be 8. 22 would be 4. The big lesson in your life is the base frequency, and you have the opportunity to evolve into and really embrace the 33. And if you don't on a soul level, if anybody out there is a master number and you feel like you're falling short or not getting it, you're not doing it wrong. Your soul is evolving at the pace in which you, for a multitude of reasons, are capable of. But for you with that 33, it makes a lot of sense why spiritual tools resonate with you and they speak to your soul.
Wow. That's pretty I've never known that about the 33, but I literally just had, like, goosebumps, and that's awesome. Thank you for sharing
Well,
that.
and the 33 is kind of a pain in the behind, like the 9. And the reason I say that is when you have that element and 3 3. So it's you also can look at the 2 threes. The
Uh-huh.
3 is the energy of communication and connectivity and community and being able to listen and to speak. And evolved 33s really synthesize information and then impart wisdom. It's a number of not only wisdom, but maturity. And it can also, because it's an extremely sensitive number, the 3 is a sensitive number. It's moody, it's emotional. The 6 is such an intuitive, deep feeler that it can be
Mm.
capsized emotionally. And you're a 5 attitude, which is moving and shaking and going. And the 5 can be emotional in ways too, because it's looking for adventure. It's looking for the next big thing. Sometimes it runs on adrenaline. So the combination of the 5 and 3 says you could easily be directing traffic, or
Mm.
you probably do exceptionally well when there's crisis because you're calm, you jump in, you know how to navigate and handle things. But learning, are you good at crisis? Not
I
anybody, we
mean,
don't like to be good at crisis, but
yeah.
are you good when things are tough in your family or something drastic happens? I imagine that you know how to show up and start being very logical and methodical about things.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which also, like, almost emotionally detached, where I was sharing with you all Sarah's combination of numbers is actually highly emotional, yet she's an Aquarius, which has a detached
Mhm.
cerebral energy. So you have a beautiful balance in your astrology and numerology where if you were a Cancer and you had this combination, you would be feeling so much stuff, or
Sure.
you were a Scorpio, or,
Mhm.
or you had very, very heavy water in your chart. Those are the dots that we get to connect in our blueprints where we know we're balanced or imbalanced. And that's a beautiful combination for you. But with the 33, it's truly about being able to know that you are here to be of service. And in order to do that fully, it's taking care of you and being of service to yourself, and then you get to love on and generously support others. Does that resonate?
110%. So last year I was in a 4 personal year and I had this whole health crisis slash journey. And it really led me to like eat better. I took this whole genetic test. I learned so much about myself. I did this 28-day detox, you know, I did all of this stuff and I didn't realize at the time, 4 is about like personal health journey, which is crazy, right? So instead of me like rejecting that and like, oh, I'm fine, I'm fine. So, last year I think I shared on here that I had a blood clot. So they didn't quite know why I had this blood clot and I wasn't getting answers like why I had it. And that didn't sit well with me and Roger. We were like, what the heck? So I just had this like ticking time bomb in me, but nobody knows why. So I went to a different route healthcare wise, which was a naturopathic doctor, and so she ran all these tests, which start with the genetic test and the hormone test, all the things. We found out the reason why I got the blood clot is it is hereditary, which we would have never found that out prior, right? So that alone just helped me really see things differently, even with like our healthcare system versus the naturopathic system, all of that. But in hindsight, since I did that, I feel so much better. Like my head is so much more clear. Like I feel good. Like the whole point in this health journey wasn't to lose weight or anything like that. But in turn, you're eating better, you're eating healthier, you lose weight. I just feel better than I ever have. So I feel like in turn that helps me show up for other people. And I want other people to feel good too. So I'm combining that health journey in with this whole astrology numerology thing. And like it gets me so excited. Like everybody could feel good, right? Like if they just followed like their numerology thing, because I know old me would have been like, whatever, it's fine. I would have accepted, we don't know why you got this. I would have just accepted that because I wouldn't have wanted to know more. I just wouldn't have.
Out of fear, and also like,
Yes.
okay, if I don't think about it, it's not true or
A
it's not gonna happen. Yeah, a lot of us
100%.
practice avoidance and denial. I've done that in
Mhm.
multiple ways. What I love is your awareness around Sarah was in a 4-year last year. 2024 for her was a 4 personal year, and if you haven't listened, the way that you calculate your personal year is you take your attitude number and you add it to the universal year. So 2024 was an 8 year. If we add 8 plus 5, it's 13. 1 plus 3 equals 4. And the energy of the 4 is about health because it's about day-to-day life work processes and routines. And it's funny because I think of it as it's very Virgo in the sense that it's day-to-day routines and how do they contribute to your health, wellness, and well-being? Are you taking things a step at a time? What routines are you incorporating, whether it's around diet, nutrition, or figuring things out that work for your mind, body, spirit connection? Anytime you're in a 4 year, it's one of those years that can sometimes be boring and frustrating, or like, oh, I've got this on my plate. Okay, I've got to get this done because it is step by step oriented. But what's beautiful when you embrace the energy of the four is wellness happens,
Mhm.
productivity happens, clarity, effectiveness, efficiency, and it's in all systems, your body, your biology. And for me, and most people know this out there, and I know you know this about me, I love the energy of the four. I'm a
Mhm.
little bit weird that way, but it's like, okay, I can do things, I can make a to do list, but the 4 resonates in terms of health and wellness and lifestyle. And what I found interesting in what you said was talking about your body and your health journey and the combination of Western medicine and more holistic healing, looking at those things. And we need both, right? We
Mhm.
need both
100%.
and how they can collaborate. But for me, and this is a massive part of my journey, the food that I put in my body, the nourishment I give myself, whether it's restful sleep and I'm not sleeping well and figuring out what
Yes.
that could be, or it is drinking water, or it's my supplementation. I mean, for
Mhm.
goodness sake, Sarah and I are both the same age, so we got the hormone thing and all of that stuff working. That's, not a blood clot that is frightening. It's just part of the stage of the journey. But when I really listen to my body and I nourish and nurture it and am cognizant of it, my intuition is much
Yes.
clearer and my body will literally show me what I am processing, detoxing, needing to pay attention to that my human consciousness cannot. And I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to give everybody an example out there. And I've been collecting the data on this the last handful of months. So recently, and this has happened over, I'd say, the last 6 months, I will process something big and it's something old, like that puts me back in a state of fear and self-pity and anger. So it'll be something where I revert back and it's like I'm
Mhm.
working out the kinks of stuff I've already thought I worked through, but there's still these kinks to work through. Something will come up in my life and I'll be confronted with it. I'll work through it however that looks. And it may be I work through it well, or I may have to make an amends because I misbehave, like whatever it may be. So, whatever the journey is, like I start to work through it. And then when I break through and I'm like, oh, this is it. Oh, that's what I was healing. Oh,
Mhm.
I got it. Oh, this is why this all happened. When that aha moment happens, literally days later after that, this is so gross, y'all, and so funny. Like, it's not that gross, but it's gross enough. Literally, and this has happened about 4 times, like, days later, I will break out in my chest area like I am a 16-year-old with acne. Like, literally, my whole chest will break out in pimples, and they're not on my face, but, I mean, it looks like I have terrible acne and need to be on Accutane kinda bad, like, all of a sudden I mean, that I'm being, like, dramatic, but I'm being true, and so the first time it happened, I was like, "Gosh, was I sweating? Did this happen? Did I eat something? Are we using a new detergent? Am I
Mhm.
having allergic I mean, I went through all the logical protocol. And then I remembered, oh my gosh, okay, anytime we have skin irritation, pimples, a bug bite that we pick at, anything on the dermis, it is literally usually pain and anger and frustration. It's angry and it comes to the surface in our body. And I remembered that and I knew that like pimples are always from a spiritual, energetic perspective, they're always denoting this kind of like detox and it's
Mhm.
processing something gnarly, nasty, angry. And our physical body is dense matter. Our mind, our consciousness may have processed something. Our emotions vibrate at a different frequency. Our auric field is another frequency, but the body is dense matter. So it's usually catching up. And then this repeated itself 3 other times, and I went back and looked, and for me, it's on my chest, which is right at my heart and lungs, my heart chakra, and I've really contemplated this, and I'll look back and it's like, "Oh, yeah, a week or so before, I had a breakthrough on something, and my body was catching
Ah.
up physically with whatever I processed on a consciousness level. So for anybody out there, and I'm not saying that all of your ailments and everything is perfectly correlated with your
Mhm.
spiritual journey or you're causing something or not causing it, but that's another fun and incredibly earth-shattering way to look at physical disease, ailments. And so for me, like if my left shoulder is jacked up and like my neck is really tight, I'm like, okay, it's a little bit of heart chakra and a lot of throat chakra, and it's the left side of my body. The left side is the feminine side of my body. So I'll start talking to my body and thanking it and asking it what needs to be released. And obviously, if I need to go to the chiropractor or have something
Mhm.
checked out, I use my maturity and my common sense to do what I need to do. And I'll use a multitude of ways to create healing. Does that make sense the way I'm sharing that? And it's
Oh,
interesting about
100%.
your blood clot. And what is
Mhm.
the status of that now? If you mind sharing, like how you are,
Um,
how you're doing?
I'm doing better than I ever have. They were monitoring the blood clot for a few months, and then I got to a point where they're like, "Okay, the blood clot will naturally dissolve on its own, so we can't just keep, like, hovering over it
Yeah.
to see what's going on." So, they said it could take a while for it to dissolve because I had multiple blood clots, and my whole arm circulation was cut off,
What
which
side of your body was it? Was your right side?
it was my right side,
Yeah.
yep. Yeah,
That's
so
so
I think that
frightening, by the way. I feel like I'm
I
listening
think
to
back
you.
to it, and I was really just in this, like, whatever state, like, it's fine, I'll get through it, I'll get through it." Now I look back and I can be like, "Dang, that was scary." So I'm fine. I'm on a blood thinner forever probably, which that genetic test helped me determine because they really left it up to me, which I thought was weird. But I was like, "Well, it's in my genetics. I'm gonna just stay on the blood thinner, help me feel better. I won't have anxiety about it." But really, I really watch what I eat now because a lot of it my family does have high cholesterol, the history of that, so I'm doing
Well,
much better, and I haven't felt this good ever, I think, in my life, and it really helped my brain get clear and everything, so I really feel like it happened for a reason, and it's to get me to where I am now, you know?
that makes so much sense, and also I'm glad that you're doing
Mhm,
well, and I encourage you to think about this because you did the genetic testing, you recognized it was genetic, and there was a predisposition to this, so of course, you're doing all the things mindfully with your blood thinners and Western medicine. Also, think about it this way, this is where I would go with it for myself is okay, this is genetic. This is in my bloodline. And this is literally your blood. Like it's like
mhm,
that's very literal. It's your blood and cholesterol and arteries, all of that that creates vitality. And I mean, blood is magnificent. It's so smart. It's so intelligent. It has all these incredible codes. And it on the right side of the body, which is very masculine, it's our extroverted side of ourselves when you pray, when you set intentions, when you meditate, talk to your body and say things to your body like, hey, I recognize that this is in my cells, in my DNA. I have inherited this. Not mad about it. I'm just glad I'm aware of it.
mhm,
I've inherited this. I am predisposed to this in my genetics. The buck stops here. I am determined or available to heal this in my genetics. And
mm,
that's where I think we are in interesting times from a quantum leap perspective to truly be able to heal things in our genetics, in our cells, in our DNA with our consciousness, our intention, and our beliefs. And again, let's say you do that and you do it wholeheartedly for 3 years and you still have this, and then you find out maybe one of your children does. Okay, that could be expected. That just happens, but what if you do this and in a couple of years or you go back to the doctor and they're like, "Oh my gosh, your cholesterol is amazing.
mhm.
There is no trace of this. We always need to monitor and be mindful, but there is no trace of this." So add that into your repertoire
Yeah,
of
I will.
intention and magic because I think that whatever you are getting to heal, not only did it prompt you into integrating healthier lifestyle choices for your body, your health, and your well-being and family, it's like a consciousness upgrade. It also
Mhm.
helped you on an intuitive level, and I
Yeah.
think that's pretty amazing.
Lately, last couple years, I compare life to like a board game almost.
Yeah.
And like once you pass a level, you get to level up. And that's
Yes.
kind of what I feel like that was. Like I passed that, I didn't freak out. And I have a history of anxiety as well. So I could have totally went the other way with that. And I did. So I'm very proud of myself for that. And I'm proud that I did all of those things. So I really feel like I leveled up,
Well,
that's kind of what I'm
I'm
picturing.
laughing because one of the like tricks or opportunities for a Leo North node, which is what you are and what I am, is treating life like a game. Meaning,
Stop.
because Leos love play and pleasure
Yeah.
and joy and competition. They're fire signs. But that is one of the things I say to myself is looking at life like a game. My husband and I play games. I love to play
Yeah.
games and I genuinely have fun. I feel childlike. I can get competitive, but I really like let it ride. I just enjoy
Mhm.
playing games. But when I treat life that way, so I love that you said that because that is an intention that when I wake up in the morning, today I'm available for life to be this adventurous
Yeah.
game, for it to be fun. Anything goes, and I'm going to be equipped to move around the game board, to do the
Mhm.
things. And I think about things that way, and it's really helpful. One of the things I do want to talk about is your personal year and personal numerology. So, as we said, Sarah was in a 4 year in 2024, and this year she's in a 5 year. And one of the things I want to say for everyone out there is where the nine has special qualities and attributes. So, whatever your attitude number is, that is the personal year you are in this year. So, there's a level of mastery or leveling up where you're fine tuning the energy of your attitude number this year. It can feel sometimes intense and immense, but it should also have some familiar qualities in your personal numerology. But one of the things that I shared with Sarah's birthday is in February, and I go by both schools of thought is our personal years in numerology start on the calendar year. The new calendar year, we shift into this year. But I also go by the school of thought that our personal years actually take effect on our birthday. So sorry for all of you out there that have winter birthdays. I have a fall birthday. It's October. So that what that would mean for me, if I went by the calendar year, I'm in a 9 year in numerology because I'm a 9 attitude number. But if I go by my birthday, I am in an 8 year until I hit my birthday in October. So I want you all to start thinking about that. And for those of you who have already done some work in your numerology and it's not overwhelming, think of yourself instead of being in the calendar year, personal year. Think about whenever your birthday is. If it's in January, then you're about to click into the new dimension. But if it's in August, you are most likely going to still be feeling the overlap of those energies through August. And for Sarah, right now, I would say you are still really still in the 4 year, your 4 personal year. And come your birthday, February 12th and beyond, really into March, it's going to start feeling like a 5, which is vastly different from step by step process, organization, lifestyle, health, wellness. You take those attributes of the 4, but the 5 means change. It is shifting perspectives, making changes, accommodating events that show up in life that maybe catch you off guard, and how resourceful are you? And it's also it's adventurous. Windfalls can happen, opportunities can come out of the blue, things can fall apart and you have to respond to them. And the big thing with the 5, and you're a 5 attitude, is creating an adventure out of whatever shows up for you. Meaning, oh gosh, okay, we were not planning on this. We didn't plan for this to happen. However, okay, how can I be resourceful? How can I respond? How can I ask for help
Mhm.
and support? And I'm saying that specifically for you because you are a 6 and a 33. You're the supporter. You jump out, you support others. The 6 is not always the best. It's saying, I need help. I
Mhm.
can't do all this, and it's remembering to ask for help and delegate. But you will see an interesting shift as you move into March, April, and May. And the numbers build on each other with their lessons. So remembering your day to day, step by step process, but also the 4 can be kind of rigid and structured. And the 5 says, be spontaneous, do something different, think outside the box.
Isn't that crazy?
Mhm.
So, that's one of my questions, like, I was already thinking that,
Yeah.
like, even with, we build spec homes, but I'm kinda getting bored with it because I feel like a spec home, you have to, appeal to the masses and, Like you can't be as creative as I want to be. And so I'm like, I don't want to do that anymore right now. Like not forever, but right now, like I want to be outside the box. I want to be more creative. And that is really putting me in a box as the spec home.
Laughing because your Sarah is a 5 attitude number, and a big attribute of the 5 is recognizing boredom. Because when the 5 feels stagnant, and literally, if you draw a 5 on your paper, the top of it is angular and the bottom is circular. So it's like kind of top heavy, it wobbles. And when the 5 gets bored, is when it misbehaves or acts out or drama happens. So recognizing boredom and acknowledging it. And for you right now, this is incredible because when we're tuned into our energies and we're looking backwards and forwards, our intuition, we start to become more precognitive. But you've become so self aware that you're like, gosh, I know we're good at this. We build spec homes. We know how to do this. We know the formulary. Roger and I've got it down. But shoot, I'm getting bored with this.
Mhm.
And for a 5, for any of us out there, but if you've got heavy 5s in your numerology, if you're born on a 5 day, if your soul urge number is a 5, and we'll link that blog too, because that's another important number in your numerological blueprint is the soul urge. And I've got a podcast and a blog on that that is very helpful. So anybody out there, if you want to calculate your numbers, your attitude number, your life path number, your soul urge number, and the day you were born, those are all that's a huge part of your characteristics, your attributes, and your lesson. But for the 5, when it gets bored, the simple acknowledgement of that, you saying that out loud is what will affect the change rather than saying, okay, I'm bored. I'm leaving this tomorrow. Like an immature attribute of the 5 is to ghost or just to say, I'm done. I quit
Mm.
this job. I'm not even giving my 2 weeks. I'm out of here. I mean, and
Yeah.
we know that you're responsible and mature. I mean, that's the energy of the 6 in your life path. But this is you saying, okay, I know we can do this. I know that we do this, but what would be exciting for me this year? And between now and your birthday, what a juicy time. I always share that about the 6 weeks leading up to our birthday is so imperative to collect the data and take notes. What have I learned over the past year? Because a lot of times lessons come up for review, things come up for us to recognize or clarify not only for the year ahead, but in the year prior, what we've learned. It's like a real fine tuning period, so to speak. So for you, just saying to the universe, I'm so grateful that we have done this, we are successful, but I'm ready for new adventures and horizons in our business. And for my role in our business, show me instead of you saying, this is what I want, this is what I
Mhm.
want, they keep saying, show me the next horizon and adventure. What is exciting for me? And then over the handful of the next few weeks, I would say you'll start getting ideas, insights, downloads, or you'll run into someone and they say, "Oh gosh, Sarah, have you and Roger ever thought about getting
Mhm.
involved in XYZ?" And you're going to do a double take and think, "Oh my gosh, I haven't thought about that, but that makes so much sense," or "That would be so incredible." So put it out there right now without stipulations, just saying, "Okay,
Yeah.
I'm a little bit stagnant in this. I can do it. I'm grateful for it, but I'm a little bored with it. What is next? What am I going to add into this recipe of life and professional opportunities? Show me, universe,
Mhm.
because I'm open to it."
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
So
Definitely gonna do that.
I hope everybody out there has gotten some good insights. Sarah, like I've shared, has put so many things into play, especially with just the synchronicities of numbers and her family. And when we do that stuff together, whether it's with friends or in any kind of community, being able to share those things just creates this like quantum up level in a multitude of ways. And I know that for me, when I have a sign or a synchronicity, sometimes I just wanna hoard it and keep it to
Mhm.
myself or think, nobody's gonna believe this." I mean, I don't really think that. I haven't thought that in a long time, but I actually do my best to share it with other people because the sharing of it actually charges the energy up
Yeah,
highly.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always feel like I have to share it with somebody, and, you're one of those people
Yeah.
now, so I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, it's just magic, like,
Yeah.
if you really start to trust in it, it's I can't explain it other than it's magic, and I get so excited about it. And I do have to say, like, 2 years ago, or no, maybe not 2 years, a year and a half ago, I had this dream about, I was, like, on stage and I was talking about numerology and stuff, and then I woke up and I was like, "Why would I have that dream? Like, nobody knows I like this stuff." Like, because I kept it kinda to myself because some people think it's weird or whatever, right? But then now I look back at this past year, it's like, wow, like, now I'm not afraid to share it, like, and if people
Yes,
wanna
and
think I'm
you came
ah,
on the podcast last year and you're coming
yes,
back on this year,
that
and
is, like,
yeah, you're
crazy.
shining your light, and also it's accessible, and that's what I want everybody out there to recognize is when we start to look at our patterns and our numbers and our astrology, it activates something, and it's
Mhm,
done
for
that for me. I've
sure.
seen it in other people, and is it this perfect roadmap that's gonna tell you, "You go here, you do this."
Yeah.
No, it's engaging. It is about
Mhm.
consciously co-creating and healing and growing, and it's not only is it interesting, intriguing, it's fun, but it just opens up your consciousness and helps you reconnect with ancient wisdom in your cells, in your DNA, and
Yeah,
that I truly and fundamentally believe, and I know it,
yeah.
and you're such a beautiful example. Sarah reaches out to me and is like, "This happened and this happened," and she's like, "I hope I'm not annoying you," and I'm like, "No, I'm always genuinely interested in her stories because they blow my mind, you know? I'm not surprised, but then I'm
Yeah.
always amazed and fascinated because it gives me the umph that I see and I've seen in other people's lives. We get to share this stuff together and shoot. We have such a heavy world and things
Mhm.
shifting and changing. Anything that creates connection and community and upliftment energetically, spiritually, personally, why not add it in? So I just
Yeah.
want to thank you
Well, thank
for
you.
sharing.
I
Yeah,
call you my
absolutely.
life
Yeah.
coach. You may not have signed up for that, but
Well,
that's
listen,
what you've been.
I will take it, and I hope that the information that I share and the energy I share, because my intention is literally just to astound people with their innate
Mhm.
abilities and remembering what our innate abilities are. We each have unique gifts, talents, and traits. And when we turn them on and we remember who we are and what we're capable of, it's limitless. And it's
Mhm.
extremely uplifting and joyful to see people awaken and grow and heal because even in difficult times and with difficult circumstances that instilled hope and faith is there that I think is such an elixir for fulfillment and joy and happiness and well-being, all the things that we
Yeah.
all are deeply seeking as humanity
Mhm.
amidst the atrocities. And I think it's that energetic overflow that is happening that is really going to create this unprecedented change in humanity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this has changed my life, so thank you, and I
Yeah.
just want everybody to feel the way I feel, to be honest. And I would suggest to go look up your lunar nodes, so you should link
Yes.
that too, because
Absolutely.
that
We will
helped
link
me.
that in.
Yeah, that helped me even, like, look back to my childhood and my family, and you just connect the dots, like,
No, it's so funny that you said that. Literally yesterday, I was thinking I should probably do a whole podcast on the lunar nodes and run through all of the lunar node axes. And so I'm putting that out there. I will do that. I'll do a
yeah.
whole astrology episode
I
where
think
we talk about lunar nodes and I go through each of the character traits and attributes, which means I probably need to write a blog about it too.
yeah, you
So I
definitely.
guess
I think
I'll
those
get
are
to work.
fascinating,
Yeah.
and then combine that with your numerology, like, it's mind-blowing.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
that's a great tip for everyone, and if it's something that has really activated and uplifted you, I know it has
Mhm.
for me, but hearing that from you,
Yeah.
then I will share that and we will do a lunar nodes episode and how to find those, where to find those, and then what essentially the attributes and traits are. So I will,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, I
Yay,
will
I can't
follow up with
wait.
that. Okay, amazing. Well,
Yay.
Sarah, thank you for coming on and
Yeah,
sharing
thank
your
you.
wisdom. We
Of
really
course.
appreciate you. And if you're in Bismarck, North Dakota, you either need a design done. Brindle Design Company is her company. But if you're in Bismarck or you are somewhere and want to connect, you should definitely reach out to
Yes.
Sarah if you're a spiritual seeker, because
Yeah,
looking for people and connecting with our tribe and people that we resonate with. I'm a big proponent of taking action around that.
I
And
think that's
you're
very
very
important.
action oriented. So
Well,
it's one of the
thank you.
things I appreciate. All right,
Thank you.
everyone. Definitely, if you haven't checked out the Astrology Numerology Guidebook, it is digital. It's on a platform called Thinkific, and there's an app that you can have on your phone. It is not printable and downloadable because it is in a digital platform. Fingers crossed that that can happen next year. However, you can go to soulpathology.com, get your copy, and get into this stuff today. Take care, everyone, and be well.